Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. Major Mom, aka Mom. Hey, hey, lady, all those other things, and aka Angela, probably to her friends, and other folks probably, but not always. Major Mom is joining us, and Angela, hey, great to have you on the show today. Appreciate you taking the time. Good to see you.
Thanks, Otis and Camden. It's great to be here. I'm excited what I'm going to learn today.
Yeah. So, man, so am I. Man, that actually, whenever somebody says that this early in the show, I'm always like, oh crap, what are we going to learn today? I'm feeling anxiety in my chest, oh man, I got to learn something. But that's I appreciate you saying that, because it is so true. We can always learn something. And what I want to start off with is just that basic question of why did you become this organizer, this doer, this server to help other people, get their shit together?
Well, I was born this way. I have to say that. I was literally organizing my mom, when I was 5. And so, the family kind of jokes about it, but I am not an obsessive compulsive person. I don't have OCD. I'm not a perfectionist, but we moved so much, so many times that my first thing to really get used to where we were living was to unpack everything for everybody and get it all put away in the kitchen and, boom, 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 settled, because we wouldn't be there long. And so I wanted to get settled right away. And so that started at a very early age. And I have to admit, I'm German. My grandmother's name is Hildegard Horm. Okay. Her mother's Uta. I mean, we've got the German blood going through. And I have to say that stereotypically Germans are incredibly organized and have systems in place. So I come by it naturally. But why did I start doing it as a profession was very simple. I was a major in the Air Force when I had my daughter, Lily, and I'd get home from duty and my husband would hand me baby Lily and say, Major Mom is home, and like a lot of husbands are afraid those little infants will break, so he's like, take her. And so, I'd take her and then I go to work again. And then 18 months later, I had my son, Nathan, and we decided that military life and motherhood were no longer compatible, because my husband's like, we need you here. And we don't, our nannies and people were raising the kids, right? And so my son was about 6 months old when I decided to resign my commission in the Air Force and be a stay-at-home mom, because I thought, wow, this is a big shift, because I was going for general. I mean, I really had that kind of drive, but I was absolutely dumbfounded when I would be in a meeting. The general would be telling us very specific instructions for things we had to do. And I didn't hear a word he said or she said, because I was thinking, I hope the nanny is feeding her on time. I hope she's changing his diapers. I hope she's not hurrying my baby. I kept just really obsessing over what's happening at home with these babies. And so I hated to admit it to all my friends and family that I would become a mushy gushy. And so I resigned my commission, became a stay-at-home mom. That worked for a whole 3 months because our real estate business was rocking and rolling. We had a real estate appraisal business. We were just making such good money at that time in Denver, Colorado. And, we were making so much money. I was like, I'm resigning my commission. I'm going to stay home. And then that was right before the Great Recession. So literally, I kid you not, months after quitting my corporate job, and I was a reservist by that point, my military job, our income just dried up. We would do an appraisal. Our company would do an appraisal that we would never get paid for it because the loan didn't close. And this would happen loan after loan after loan after loan. Do you guys remember, well, maybe Otis, remember when you would get an appraisal on your house and you paid the appraiser at the door?
Yep.
Remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
Well, now they roll everything into the loan. So the mother of necessity is what happened with creating this Major Mom was the original name of the company, because now we've gone 6 months without mortgage companies paying us, and the mortgage companies are pressuring my husband to fake the appraisal price, because the homes are upside. Almost every home in that Denver area was upside down. So we said, we're not going to do that. We answer to the, the God of the universe, and we are not going to get up there to the pearly gates and have to answer to why we did all that lying and things for money. So we wouldn't do it. So one day my husband came home and I was staying home with the kids, and I kept saying, you have 2 MBAs, like figure this out. Like, I'm going to stay home with the kids. I just quit my whole career. And one day he came home and I was watching Peter Walsh on the learning channel. And he's a organizer extraordinaire that's on Oprah and everything. And he said, Angela, we need to talk, because we're blowing through our savings. I think I'm now just pretending none of it's happening. So I'm like, this cannot be happening.
You're doing
And,
this, right? Yeah, everything's okay.
I'm like, I have 2 kids under the age of 18, too. I'm in mama land now. I've resigned my commission. He said, you need to go back into the Air Force. I said, that's not possible. Then he points to the TV, because I told him, be quiet. Peter Walsh is getting ready to do the reveal, show how he transformed this house. He said, you don't talk when Peter's talking. And he's like, Angela, you should be doing what he does. And I said, I should be on TV? And he said, no, you organize everybody in the family, our neighbors. You love, love, love it. Like a gardener likes to garden, a painter likes to paint, your grandfather's a sculptor and artist. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I ran upstairs to the computer, typed in Peter Walsh, found out he was called a professional organizer, and there was a National Association of Professional Organizers. I joined that day. And that's entrepreneur lesson number 1. If you feel it in your bones that this is what you were called to do, and you get excitement about it, then you're not doing it for the money. I did this career because I knew I was wired to do it.
Was that the like epiphany moment, or were there other times? Because you said you were born this way. That was, one of the first things you said. And so I was kind of curious of, when did you notice it though? Because you were always acting like this, but it's like, okay, when you're in high school, you're like, gosh, my locker's a lot cleaner than everybody else's. Or when was that moment?
Well, my sister was the exact opposite. So I think I noticed it when I was very little. My mom was barely organized, but she worked so much as a single mom. So, her stuff's always kind of not very great, but my sister was an absolute slob. And, about 6 or 7 years old, and then through the teenage years, I thought, wow, you just cannot get your stuff on your side of the room. Don't cross this line. Keep your clothes over there, hang them up. And so I noticed that I was naturally liked order in the chaos of our life. So it was also a coping mechanism, but I naturally did it, enjoyed doing it. But what I hated to do was cleaning. God, if my mom asked me to mop the floor, I would throw a fit. So I hate cleaning, and cleaning and organizing are 2 totally different disciplines. One's very cerebral, organizing and finding a place for everything, putting it in its place. That's very cerebral. I like that challenge in some of the places we lived and with my clients. Cleaning is just physical, and so I don't get any pleasure out of it. It's not cathartic to me to just clean. So I knew from a very young age that I was organized. And then in college, I would organize my friends' notebooks. I would say, hey, let me help you. You got quite a mess going on over there. And I liked helping people get organized. And so every boyfriend that I've ever dated has benefited from that, because, their file system was set up, and I'd get everything set up for them and say, wow, you've got just papers everywhere and mail everywhere. You've got to get in control of your stuff. So I just loved it. But I didn't know that it was something I was supposed to do professionally. I just did it for fun.
That's what's so cool about it, is you get the universe is like talking to you, knock, 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 anybody home, and giving you all these things. And then it just took, and this is something I find fascinating. It took that pain, in that moment of, the financial crisis in 2008, when the bottom fell out of all the loans and all these other things happened. And you just happened to be your family so tied to it at that moment that the pain threshold went from, like you said, I'm doing the mom thing, I got a couple of under 2-year-olds, and I'm just cruising along, happy go lucky. And then your husband comes home and says, hey, and you just went, Woo. And I think that's fascinating because truthfully, so many people struggle with what it is they're supposed to do in life. And I think it's fascinating. Matter of fact, I had call the client this morning, and talking that through, and what it is that she wants to do and who she wants to be and all that sort of stuff. But you know, the universe is laying things out if we decide to look for it. So I'm super excited that you found that, which is just amazing because most people struggle with it. But how did you go from this is who I am to business? Because those are two really different things, because we can all go around and, help mom, help our neighbors, be really nice, to, okay, now give me a check for doing that. So how did you flip it into a business?
Well, I'd have to say that I've always been a little bit entrepreneurial. Most entrepreneurs are not usually great employees. My bosses in the Air Force would always say, because it's Air Force, of course, it was like, right speed, Cody, wrong trajectory, and it's like, you basically use it. Oh, that's a great idea, Cody. Now shove it up your ass, So it was like, I always had these like, oh, I can make this more efficient if we would make this checklist, correct this checklist, or write a little mini checklist on this. And so it was kind of like, we would be easier to train. And we already had tons of checklists in the Air Force, but it would be these supplement ones that made sense, when you're training a newbie. And so I always had this spirit inside of me of, okay, I want to do something, which is, another entrepreneurial lesson is I dabbled in network marketing. Excuse me. I dabbled in all kinds of things. Somebody bring this idea to me and say, oh, I've been in Primerica, where you do financial services and basically selling insurance, and buy term, invest the difference was the big motto there. I've done so many different network marketings, and I would get up to, pretty quick in the level. And then I realized that, oh, something's wrong with the business model. And then I always find myself wanting to fix the business model. So I think I was drawn to learning business models, is why I would get involved in these different businesses, because I could see what worked and what didn't. And I think that's where the culmination of starting a real estate appraisal business and, me still being an employee and having this appraisal business. A lot of that just kind of happened because my neighbor said, hey, we need an appraiser. Would your husband like to be an appraiser? And at that time, he was ready to leave his little dinky job. So I think that that's how, it just naturally was in there. I didn't have to say, like I'll give you an example. My husband he loves being an employee. He hated the being an entrepreneur, probably because I was his wife now. So I was like, we should hire out, we should hire appraisers. We need to grow a team, And so he's like, I don't want to train anybody. And I'm like, but we need to train because we want to be a business owner. And Rich Dad Poor Dad's book said, we're just self-employed right now. We need to be business owners. That's my dream. And so Rich Dad Poor Dad, what's the book I have over here on my shelf? The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I mean, lesson number 3, it's like, read as many books by entrepreneurs that actually are making it, and let it get inside of you, except for books like The 4-Hour Work Week. I can't stand those kind of books. Like, yes, would you like a 4-hour work week? I don't know a single person who's successful who only works 4 hours. I know a lot of unsuccessful people who work 4 hours a week. I know what the point of the book is, and I've read it because we did it in our mastermind group, but that's not a really good selling point. You're selling lies at that point. That's what I think.
There's lessons there that you can apply, but it is definitely not the kind of book that you pick up and start modeling your life right away, compared to a lot of other ones out there that are much better.
Yeah, that's your exit strategy, retirement strategy to get to 4 hours. not your building. Your building phase is not going to be 4 hours.
Exactly. Well, one of the things I loved there, Angela, is, you talk about have being an entrepreneur and like having this in you. And I can tell that you have the same kind of bone in me that I have, which is you got that entrepreneurial bone, and you're sitting in the restaurants, you're sitting at the store, and you start doing the math on things. You're like, okay, how the heck are they keeping this place open? Why does that business over there always close? And are you like that? Are you going around all the time just doing math on these different business models?
I don't know if I do the math, but I definitely do I know why this place isn't successful, and I want to go talk to the manager. I want to call the owner. I'm like, if your bathrooms are so dirty, you come in and you don't get a good greeting. All the aspects of the client experience are what light me up. And that's why in our company, we have checklists and ops manuals and training so that our client experience is as standardized as possible, barring, the personalities of each organizer, but that the process is the same. You're not going to have one person that comes to your house and just starts digging in, and the other person comes with their 6-page questionnaire and asking you questions. We're going to do it the same way each time. So that client experience. So I can tell by the client experience for sure at some places, like, wow, God help you, because you have missed the mark on, yes, your food is good, but your service and the place is dirty.
Yeah, sorry, I'm laughing at Camden's habit allergies this morning. Completely sidetrack it because every so often he's dipping away. What I find fascinating, and you mentioned it, so I'm just curious, why did you stay in the home aspect and not go into more in the quote unquote business consulting aspect?
Oh, that was absolutely a conscious decision. After being in the military and corporate, I didn't want to be in those worlds anymore. I didn't want to be part of them because there's always another echelon and another layer and another echelon of people that have to make decisions. And so I have a lot of friends that just do corporate organizing, and I definitely have the head for it and do that after 20 years in business and helping other business owners. I prefer to use that energy to mentor veterans and kind of get them going or give them some outside, guidance. But going in there and working for the man, in these big corporates or offices was not fun. I did a couple of gigs early on, but my true heart, again, it just blows me away. But when I would go to play dates with my little babies, because I was trying to get to know my neighbors, I never got to know my neighbors in the military. So I'm like, okay, we're planting here. I would go to play dates, which was like, oh my gosh, like who does, this is like, I'm in another world again. I didn't have anything in common with any of the moms, it felt like. And I tried to never mention I was in the military because it just set me apart big time. I tried to just like talking about recipes and coupons and all. I just hated it. So then what I would start doing is somebody say, oh, I hate my house. I wish it would just catch on fire. I'm just sick of all this clutter. I'm just sick of this mess. I'm sick of this. And I'm so behind my laundry and I can't find anything in my closet. And so then I would go, ooh, I can help you with that. And so I grew a spot in my heart for moms, busy working moms, stay-at-home moms, you name it. I thought, they are suffering at home. A lot of isolation happens for moms. And I experienced that in the first month off duty. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so isolated right now. I'm not getting any stimulation from adults. So that's where God just took my heart and he softened it towards stay-at-home moms, because I kind of had a hardened heart towards stay-at-home moms. Like, well, why can't they get all their stuff done? They're home all day. I literally bought into that ridiculous notion that, I heard people say that the Air Force officers would say about their wives, why can't you get it done? She's home all day. And so I heard this my whole career. So then I believed it. And then I realized because they're isolated, alone, they don't have organizing skills. And Camden, notice, this, sometimes people just don't have the organizing gene. They're not going to be able to create the order. Then you put on overwhelm, depression, and other things that come with sometimes being a new mom. If you don't have a support system, your house is going to go to pot quickly.
And it builds up too, right? It becomes that spiraling thing of, I've seen it with clients too, not necessarily in the organizing, but in the feelings of how they are and what they're pursuing and the, I'll screw it up again. Oh crap again. And oh crap again. And it just keeps going down and down like that. Yeah, that's that's frustrating, and really awesome that you saw that as a problem and have turned that into a business. And I think that makes it even more fun, because you were kind of living it, but you saw the problems in others that you could fix. And that's the solution set that everybody wants in their business, right? Is identify where the problem is and have a solution for it. So I want to shift a little bit into what's that one thing from your time in the Air Force and missile silo life that has been like that your go-to in running a business? Because you've gone from, and actually there you go, there's a follow-up I need to get to, but I want to stick with that. But what is that one thing that you would say that you pulled from your time in the Air Force that's helped you the most in business?
I say the one thing is really continuity binders and checklists and ops manuals. I hate to say it because I hated them when I was in the service, but because in missiles, I was a missile combat crew commander. We're working with nuclear weapons, and so there is zero tolerance for errors, and it's an incredibly stressful work environment. And so, if you messed up a checklist, in a trainer ride or an evaluation ride, it was a big deal. And so it was like, they say it like this: read a step, do a step, eat a banana. It's like, basically, don't think, take your ideas and how we should be running a missile silo, missiles, and shove it and just do the step. So, but what I hated about that was sometimes there was a step missing, and it's like, but there's a step missing because you actually have to go do that first, and if you don't know it, then you miss. So there was that frustration of, but the checklist isn't right. And so for the the day, but those checklists, I created an organizing job checklist for each of my employees. It's at the cover of the folder, and it's exactly the order in which we do the job. It's one pager, and it is so easy to train new people and duplicate myself. And that's the key to growing beyond self-employment. You can't just bring people on to your company, give them some verbal training, take them on a job with you and say, okay, go work with my clients now. No. So I guess it's twofold: train, training. Train and then train some more and then train in months. And before you know it, you can do it in your sleep. And so we have a Major Mom Academy. We train 36 hours of training, and then 50 hours of in the field, train on how we deliver our service models. And what helps training? Checklists and operation manuals. And so that's the big Air Force takeaway.
I just really, really want to echo that, because that's something I've caught with one of my clients is working with a company that this is their like first real big round of hiring. And basically what happened was the folks who created all of the processes never systemized the processes. So now the new round of replacements are coming in, and they're all going, okay, what did they used to do? How do I systemize that and create a new system? So I just really want to echo that the systems are such a big aspect of growing your business. And the better you can get at that, definitely the easier your business will flow, because then you can, it's all about, I've been thinking about this a lot with everything you've been saying, honestly, but it's about the opportunity cost that comes with, focusing on a skill that you're actually good at. And when you're leading a business, you need to focus on what you're good at and hire for things that you're not. And if you can systemize those type of jobs that you were doing, but it's not really your cup of tea, it's not really your purpose, then you're going to go so much further in business, because you can really push those off to somebody else and then focus on your own energy and your own passion.
Yeah, like I never did my bookkeeping. I'm terrible with numbers, which is why I kind of laughed when you said you do the math. I transpose numbers. I've always gotten C's in math my whole life, because I do something with the numbers. It goes up in here and something doesn't come out right. So thank God Almighty, when we authenticate and decode messages in the Air Force, it's all alphabets. There's no numbers. And so, the Alpha, Tango, Charlie, and, you're writing it down. But if it was numbers, I would have probably washed out of, training. but don't do your own bookkeeping if you're not a bookkeeper. I had to do
Mhm.
bookkeeping 2 times with my business partner. I did also bring on a business partner, was my perfect opposite. She's deep, very, very detail oriented. I was a visionary, and it was a perfect match. But she went on vacation twice, and I had to run payroll, and I thought I was going to just cry myself to sleep. So I get really frustrated when people that I know are in business are up till midnight doing their bookkeeping. And it's like, you should be up working on your sales pitch and who you're going to call. You should not be doing that.
Well, I can say I'm very thankful that you had checklists and they used numbers, because being one of those guys who would have been on the other end of where those missiles were going, I'm really glad you didn't have to transpose grid coordinates or anything like those. Woo! Yeah, that was great. All those guys listening out there, hey, it's okay. She's not pushing the buttons anymore. So, yeah. Sorry, really big
There are
sidetrack.
keys. We turn the keys. There's no buttons.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm just thinking that that person who's pushing in the numbers as I'm calling them on the radio. Oh God, please read that back to me. What I'm curious about in this beautiful, awesome picture of everything, you're doing it right, doing it right, doing it right. What was that dark moment, or I mean, have you just been all silver lining? What is that dark moment in your business other than having to do the bookkeeping while your partner was on vacation?
Those were 2 very dark moments, and it took me a week to get payroll done. It was a nightmare. But the I think the other dark moments were that although I feel like I'm demilitarized, I'm more civilian now. 16, 17 years ago when I started the company, I was still, like this, and get this done and get that done and get this done. And so some of the dark moments came from employees that would be disloyal, for example, steal clients or go off and do their own gig after training with me for 7 years. And then they go steal clients, and then they, poach your team for employees after I put my heart and soul into those teams and train them. And that was really dark moment, because I thought, okay, well, that was, there's an enemy takeover. We're having an enemy takeover, and what do I do? And I had all of the instruments in place to take them to court, non-competes, non-copyrights, copyright, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I had a lot of lawyers at the beginning and mentors and things, get some documents in place to protect my intellectual property. And at the end of the day, I prayed about it, and I know this sounds, again, silly and mush gush, but I really felt like I heard God say to me, and what do you think happened to my son down there on that earth? He was lied to, betrayed, blah, blah, blah. And if it's going to happen to one of the greatest men that walked the earth, whatever you want to label him as, he was a man, he was whatever, then it's going to happen to the rest of us. And so that kind of gave me this perspective of, oh yes, okay, let's come out of this dark phase now. It was a financial hit, it happened a couple of times. And so I wanted to sue their ass off. I wanted to beat their face into the ground. I had those moments of, I'm going to effing kill you. And then it was like the Lord saying, no, you're not. And now I'm going to sue you. No, you're not. You're going to let it go. You're going to move on and continue. And that was very dark time. I would say I definitely, started drinking a little bit more at night, going, oh my gosh. And then kind of came through that, but it was painful.
Yeah, that is, and that's our natural reaction, right? It is it's the old turning the other cheek, quite literally. Somebody does something to you, and what's your first reaction? And that's it. It's the reaction is to punch back, and all that does is perpetuate that negative result, negative action in that sort of sense. And that's a frustrating place to be in, not an easy thing to step out of. I talk with people about that all the time, you know, and in the literal sense of, you know, turning the other cheek. If you're in a bar and somebody walks up to you and punches you, do you turn back and smile or do you swing? Which do
I,
you do?
I always tell the rugby boys, you know, when you get to that, because you know, rugby's it gets a little violent every now and then. We all, you know, you coach. Every now and then you reach those kind of points. You got to talk to the players about that. And I always say it like this: the toughest guy doesn't have to throw a punch. Like the toughest guy takes the punch and then smiles and keeps going and playing, because the other guy looks like an idiot. He'll probably get a red card. You know, there's all sorts of other stuff. Plus, second punch always gets caught. Come on, that's rule number one. But yeah, it's like toughest guy never throws the punch. You got to have confidence in yourself. And I think that's the thing when you have those negative reactions to those outside influences. And, you know, yours is a very real example, Angela. And it's one where having a, you know, insecurity, having worries, all those type of things come up is completely natural in that situation. And then it's so natural to then project that out where it's like, these people are taking customers from me, you know, they're stealing from me. They stole time from me also. Like it feels like that you're really under attack. So we can get this really defensive mechanism where we want to go, you know, swing back at them. And it takes that confidence in yourself and like recognizing your own value in the situation, really, I think, to say, look, this doesn't detract from me. I'm doing my job. In fact, I'm doing such a good job that they're trying to steal people from me. Like, if you're doing a crappy job, they wouldn't even be stealing people, right?
Right. But it is a dark place for an entrepreneur and a business owner because, you know, that they took money from me, my family, my business, you know, it was a direct hit. And in my military training for 14 years would be, you know, retaliation. And so I think that's when my faith deepened as well. I think at that point I started realizing, oh, I'm not in control. Oh, I'm not in control? What do you mean? I'm the boss. I'm the CEO. I'm in control. And then that's where my faith was really deepened, where it was an epiphany of I'm not in control. And that's where, but I am in God's will. I'm using my gifts to serve his people in my way. And so that's the cool part. If your business can feel like a mission field sometimes, where you're out there helping people, making their homes better. You know, husbands have said, I've saved their marriages. Why, you know, moms have cried, kids have cried. They're just so finally thankful to be through that storm of clutter and chaos and just stuff everywhere. And, you know, your home life really affects your work life. When you come home to a really cluttered, chaotic household with a lot of arguing and, you know, get your stuff picked up, blah, blah, blah. It really affects your next day at work or, you know, going into your shift. It just, you can't come home and relax because it's just a shit show at your house. And so that's not fun. And that's what's great about going out there and doing what we do. And when an entrepreneur can be doing what they love, that's just icing on the cake. And when I mentor veterans, a lot of times I say 90% of what a veteran will say, I'll say, why are you doing this business? It's the first question I ask when I mentor. Why are you doing this? And they say, because I was told the money's really good. That's the wrong reason. That is the wrong reason, because you'll be miserable in about 2 years when you hate what you do.
Yeah. And
go ahead, Kim.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, on that, you know, understanding your why, and, you know, we've talked a lot about how you've reached your understanding of, you know, your why and what you want to do with that. And we've talked some about teaching that to other people, but I've got a more specific question on that. How did you as a mom work to foster, sorry if the dogs are barking and that's coming in. How did you as a mom work to foster that sense of purpose and understanding on that deeper level in your kids? Because I think that's something that a lot of people can go really far in life before they even start thinking about things like that.
You know, the way it all worked out was kind of nuts. My mom was a single mom. She put herself through nursing school. My sister and I'd be very young. We'd be outside of the nursing school playing in the fountain. You know, we're 5 and 6 years old, being unsupervised, left alone a lot, which this day and age would be completely, you know, child protective services. But back then, you know, kids just, you know, stayed in cars and did things. The reason why I'm saying that is because I always said, I never want to put my kids in this situation. I never want to, you know, have to bring my kids to work. And isn't it funny that I actually, because we were we had to close our real estate business down. I had to take a job waiting tables while I was getting the organizing business going with 2 kids that we had, in preschool. That we've always had them in a private Christian school, and which meant we had to really always work a lot. But somehow, some way, those kids, I would pick them up from school and I had to take them to a networking event with me. I would be in my camo pants and my Major Mom shirt. We had, our company name was that, and I'd take them to a networking event. And I tell everybody, I'm training up entrepreneurs, I'm raising up entrepreneurs, because otherwise I couldn't go to the networking event because I wasn't going to pay for a babysitter. We didn't have any money. And so I couldn't believe that I was bringing my kids to a mostly all male networking events. And a wonderful thing happened is a couple of guys came up to me much older and said, I used to have to bring my kids to my meetings too. I brought my kids to the meetings where I was a president of associations. I brought them to networking meetings only once, and that was an emergency. I brought them to a client, which I, do not ever recommend doing. But I didn't want to cancel on the client. I told her, my husband is working late. I have the kids. I can't organize, your space tonight. She's like, just bring the kids. So it was kind of like, okay. So when you're really good at what you do and you're doing, you're organizing, you're giving your gift, people will say, all right, well, we're not gonna ding you for that. But I instilled in those kids that work ethic. I brought them to speaking engagements before school. I would give speaking engagement or speaking or talks to Rotary Club and the Lions Club. I mean, hundreds of different clubs over 15 years I would speak to, and a lot of them met at 7:30 in the morning. So I'd get the kids up, we would get dressed, we go to my speaking engagement. They would sit there where I could see them, where they were safe. And then we go to school. So they grew up hearing the organizing message, things in a place for everything in its place. And so that is how I instilled that into them. And now as teenagers, I make them come work with me on jobs, sorting and carrying stuff, breaking down boxes. And so making them work and earn some money is also, I think, how I've helped instill that.
That's great. I love that you're helping the kids and bringing them in. I mean, we had the co-founder of, let's see if I'll get it right, Camden. I'm thinking really hard so I don't screw it up. Alpha Coffee. There we go. I kept Freudian slipping it and saying company. I don't know why I would say that.
Yeah, right.
But he's doing the same thing with his kids, and it's just well, I mean, it took me a little bit. I'm a slow learner. I'm doing that with one of my kids, making them learn the business. So it is a great way to pass it on. One of the things that's popped into my mind in this, in the business that you do, is how long does it stick for your clients, or do you get a call back in like a year or 6 months or whatever and say, I've lost it all again, can you come back? What's the cycle of that, or is there a cycle of it?
Oh, there is a cycle. Some people work 80 hours a week and they're just never going to keep their house organized and clean. They just come, they come in, dump, grab something to go to their sport event, dump, it's just that they're just so over scheduled that they just don't have the time. So we call those our maintenance clients. And, over the years after we built it, 58% of our revenues was from maintenance clients, or repeat clients, meaning they hired us to do the bedroom. They loved it so much, then they hired us to do the basement. Then they hired us to do the garage. So we have a lot of repeat jobs where they kind of test us out on one room and then like, yes. And then they're going to move. So then we unpack them when they move. So we have a lot of repeat business, which is our saving grace, because, when you're one off all the time, it's the worst kind of business ever. But that repeat clientele is what is our bread and butter. And sometimes we put them on weekly maintenance for those who are super, super clutter bugs. And then others are like quarterly. And then sometimes it's just annual. They're like, okay, you unpacked us, you got everything all organized. We need you back. We need a refresh. And so again, that's 58% of revenues being repeat business is a darn good day.
Oh yeah. That's what anybody's business would want. And those of you out there in the business world, just remember that, because it's a heck of a lot more effective and efficient in your business and your bottom line of your business to have clients stay with you and be repeat buyers, as opposed to all the money that you spend going out and getting new clients. Boy, yeah, good on, 58%. That's a heck of a number. So I'm what's next, in that sense of you've got this awesome business where you're extremely focused. You've got a great team that's working very, very a counterpart partner that balances things out. What's next for the major organizers or whatever, or even just Major Mom herself?
Well, Major Mom, myself, I still speak and teach. I get speaking gigs. I have a great little presentation I give, and it's fun, and it inspires people to either hire help or go home and do something. So it's a fun presentation. So my brand, Major Mom, is still very strong, and I continue to build that, my personal brand. Major organizers took one hell of a hit during COVID. We shut down we shut down every location and laid off the employees last March, because we were going into people's homes, and the risk was just too big. And people, quite frankly, had stopped calling because they're like, I think we'll wait and see what's going on with this. And so I just can't believe it. If you've ever seen those gardeners that take a chainsaw and cut the whole bush down, is gorgeous, huge, beautiful blooming bushes in Phoenix, Arizona. They're just gorgeous. And they'll come right out, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they'll cut that whole thing down to a stump. And about 3 or 4 months later, it grows bigger and, better. And you just can't believe that they do it. That is exactly what God has done to my business now 3 times. And it's like, you got to be kidding me again. This is good again. And so here we are rebuilding. But like that gardener, we should come out with some lessons learned, simplify some of our processes, and now rebuild. We started franchising after being on Shark Tank. That was going really well. It wasn't going great. It was going well. Franchising is extremely expensive. It was very time consuming. It took a lot of my energy. I started not feeling very happy. So just training others and dealing with franchise owners was starting to kind of become a nightmare, because they don't listen to anything. And so I now am organizing in the field again. I got now the field for about 4 years. And now I'm working with clients again. I'm happy. I'm subcontracting because I didn't hire employees yet. So I'm re-identifying what is next. So I haven't landed on a target. But right now, since we're still in COVID, I'm just enjoying working with clients, getting in there, getting my hands dirty again, and being in the field and seeing their faces and smiles. And, it never gets old to hear somebody say, oh, you're brilliant. Oh my gosh, I would never thought of that. I mean, the ego gets such a boost when you're working with clients that love you. And I missed that. So I think I'm readjusting that. I'm going to need to have an investor. I'm going to have a team going to have to come in. That's why I went on Shark Tank, to do all that business stuff and the bookkeeping and the audits and all the stuff that was draining me. And franchising audits are mandatory every year. There's so much paperwork. And so I need to be out training the people, train and evaluate. That's my gift. I'm good at it. I even correct I tell the contractors, don't bring your coffee inside to a client job. What are you doing? We're in their house. And it's like, leave it on the porch or just finish drinking the coffee before you come in. Don't stroll in to any of my jobs, so it's like, here we go again. Got to train people how to even act right. It's just amazes me that anyone would even do that. But that's where I am. It's an uncomfortable place to be, not knowing when I'm going to be able to rebuild, but I'm okay being here.
Oh, that's awesome. And you hit on something I think a lot of entrepreneurs do as they scale. That same mistake you were talking about is they stop doing what they love. If it's that interaction with the client, there's this myth that, oh, you're CEO, you shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z or this, that, and the other. And if that's what you loved about the business, then you should continue to do that, because when you stop doing that, you no longer love the business. Miss Suzanne does that with her clients. She doesn't always do it on purpose because she's also the substitute caregiver. But, when she gets away from her interactions with the clients, the business becomes work, and it's no longer enjoyable when it's work. But when you're doing those things you love, man, it just, you get rejuvenated, don't you? That's
Oh.
awesome that you're doing that.
It's just like, I couldn't have planned it to work out like this, but this is how it worked out. It helped me realize, oh my gosh, I love being in the field with the team, and directing and guiding and project managing. We get, like, we just got a $20,000 project. I didn't know it was going to be a $20,000 home unpack job, but the woman brought 3 households of stuff for 1 household. So we got a lot of Tetris going on right now, and trying to get things going and things built and overhead. And so, we're 3 months in. It's like, okay, some of my jobs can be $20,000-$30,000 over a course of many months, but it's just, it's such satisfying work to get people to the other side of kind of a mess that they've gotten themselves into.
That's great. Man, I love hearing that too. And love that you've gone back to your sweet spot. That's awesome to hear. So I'm curious, it's my favorite part, what we learn. And man, I'm kind of all over the map. I can tell you one thing that sticks out. I didn't know there was such a thing as a National Association of Organizers. Let that put that in your pocket. Go back to recent episode with Jason McCarthy and GoRuck and talking about building your community. Wow, if a community already exists, step into that community and be part of it. So I'm thinking for me, that is such an important thing that I think we brush aside and think we have to start from scratch. What if the community already exists? Step into it. So good. That for me was what I learned today. And Camden, what'd you learn?
It's really easy when you reach this point of the show, when you write the same thing in slightly different phrasing about 6 times in my notes throughout the show. And really what it goes back to is we said it so many different ways. Use your skills, follow your passion, use your gifts, follow your genius. And, the thing that always takes me back to is in development economics, you have this thing, it's ABCD, asset-based community development. And it's like, if you want to raise up a community, build up a region, use the assets that they have. And it's, it sounds so simple when you start breaking down like that, but that's how you have to look at yourself and look at your business. It's, finding those skills and finding that passion, that fire that can drive you forward, and then just build on that. Use that to go get something else. So, hire to cover your weaknesses and all those type of things. It's just such a big lesson that I think you can't learn enough when it comes to business.
Angela, what did you learn?
I say I relearned, I reminded myself of something, just hearing myself. And I relearned that, and I think this is really important. Sometimes you don't know what your genius is because it comes to you so easily. You don't recognize it as a gift. And so I remembered that 20 years ago, maybe 16, 17, I read the Jack Canfield. And there was an exercise in there where you send a letter to, a circle of 5 people, asking them to tell you what are your 3 greatest strengths. And it's a very scary exercise because God knows what your siblings are going to write back about you. My brother's is very kind. But what I learned was they saw in me things that I took for granted, meaning they said leader and organized. Every single letter I got that said leader and organized. And then that turned on the light bulbs of how could I use that leadership and the organizing skills to develop my company. But I had to go outside and have someone tell me, you are really good at these 2 things. And so sometimes the lessons learned is maybe you don't see it in yourself. So you need to, before you start your business, maybe do that little exercise and ask someone else what they see in you, because it might really rock your world.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's such a great lesson. It's that old adage of you're too close to the trees to see the forest, right? I mean, that's cool. Yeah, great. Well, Angela, how do folks get in touch? Hire major organizers. Where are y'all at, and what's the best way for people to find you and learn more about what y'all got going on?
Well, we do have a website. It's majoreorganizers.com. And we have, all of our social media, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. I mean, if you look for Major Organizers, you'll find us. And if you want to follow us on any of those, just kind of see what we got going on. But the website is the best, majoreorganizers.com, to just click for a free estimate, or there's another little thing on there that you just want to leave a message for Major Mom. It's a little contact us, and it says you just want to speak directly to Major Mom. And a lot of people after Shark Tank over the years have just left nice messages. Other veterans, other wonderful people have said, keep going, Major Mom, and keep going, liberators, because we call ourselves liberators. And so that's the best way.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll make sure that majororganizers.com is in our show notes. And I really appreciate you taking time out of the day, organizing yourself well enough so that you can spend just a little bit of time with us. We appreciate that. Camden, run us out.
Thank you all for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Major Mom, Angela Cody Rouget, and to our sponsors, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.